From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is Agday.
USDA rolls out its latest forecast for major grains. The markets react.
Across the board, we had big shocks and big bearish shocks in corn.
Plus, the East Coast preparing for the shock of Florence. In agribusiness, wheat market moves.
Yeah, it's definitely been something that you would call exceptionally volatile, is what I've been looking at.
Protesters are stepping things up at packing plants, and a massive research project looks into the health impacts of eating dairy.
Agday, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. As the saying goes, big crops get bigger. That appears to be the consensus from the latest numbers compiled by USDA. USDA rolling out its September forecast for the nation's crops. It's anticipating corn production to roll in at 14.8 billion bushels on an average yield of 181.3 bushels to the acre. That's up by nearly 3 bushels per acre from its August forecast of 178. Now, if it holds, it would be the highest national yield ever for the U.S. Among the major producing states, yields are forecast to be records in Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, Indiana, Ohio, and South Dakota. On the soybean side of the ledger, USDA is calling for a record 4.69 billion bushel crop, yields tipping the scales at 52.8 bushels to the acre, also higher than its August forecast. Markets seeing plenty of reaction to the numbers as corn futures fell double digits, while soybeans stepping into the green during trading hours.
The yields for the report, for the WASDE report this week, basically confirmed what we've heard all summer, that the crop is progressing along very nicely. We've had good growing conditions, and we're setting ourselves up for a bumper crop. If we look at the USDA numbers, we're looking at the second largest production value for corn that we've ever had, and we're looking at the largest production value for soybeans. So we're dealing with a lot of supply.
So what does it mean for the balance sheet? USDA says ending stocks for corn is on the rise as a larger crop more than offsets a declining beginning stocks. Feed and residual use for the new year also raised 50 million bushels because of a larger expected crop in anticipation of lower prices. Now on the soybean side, with soybean crush up 10 million bushels and exports unchanged, ending stocks projected at 845 million bushels. That's up 60 million from last month. USDA putting the new season average price between $7.35 and $9.85.
That's not a big enough increase in the carryover estimate on corn to really change the story there. Corn's still got a good story to tell. We just need, the biggest problem for corn right now is what's going on with the bean crop and the bean market, and a carryover of 845 million bushels. We could see this coming. We've seen this coming for quite a while. I still think that there's room to go to the upside on the demand side, for soybeans, but right now we're dealing with that 845 carry. That's going to be a wet blanket over the market all the way through harvest.
On the cotton side, USDA raising its production estimates there by 447,000 bales in the Southwest, Delta, and Southeast. All cotton production now forecast at 19.7 million 480-pound bales. That's down 6% from last year. Ending stocks, they're now projected higher at 4.7 million bales. Export expectations also higher as world consumption climbs. If it holds, the current stocks-to-use ratio would be the lowest in 8 years. The latest crop production report from USDA says cotton harvest is already underway. 10% now picked, with Texas leading the way at 18% harvested. Major parts of the Lone Star State have been in drought, but USDA continues to expect strong yields.
The Southwest has been impacted the most this year. USDA estimated a 40% abandonment rate for Texas in their August report. Crop conditions in Oklahoma are also worse than last year. Texas conditions had improved a bit but have deteriorated in the last few weeks. Conditions are similar to 2012 and 2013, but the USDA August estimate for the Texas yield per planted acre is higher than in 2012 and 2013. The Texas yield per harvested acre is estimated to be lower than in the last few years, but it's actually only slightly lower than in 2016.
Current trade tensions continuing to be a major influence on export expectations. On Wednesday, reports that the U.S. and China may once again resume trade discussions. The Wall Street Journal reporting the U.S. is reaching out via letter asking for a fresh round of trade talks. The report says the U.S. proposing to have discussions in the coming weeks, but asking for a ministerial level delegation. Last month, China sent a mid-level trade delegation to Washington, which resulted in no resolution. The U.S. continuing to threaten an additional $200 billion in tariffs on Chinese goods. Also on Wednesday, China slashing its own forecast for soybean imports. It says farmers are reducing their use of soybean meal in animal feed due to current trade conflicts. Its Ministry of Ag and Rural Affairs saying imports of soybeans in the new crop year will be about 83 million tons, off by about 10 million tons from a year ago. Chinese-owned mega producer Smithfield preparing for the impact of Hurricane Florence, shuttering its hog processing facilities in the Carolinas. Smithfield Foods shut down its Tar Heel plant ahead of Florence. The plant, the largest in the world, can process 35,000 hogs per day. The firm will also close its facility in Clinton, North Carolina. Some estimates say the area holds roughly 10% of pork processing capacity. Now, Smithfield also saying preparations are underway on its approximately 250 company-owned farms and 1,500 contract farms in the state. The storm expecting to make landfall later today or early Friday morning and then stall, dropping what some estimate to be 20 to 30 inches of rain.
Tropical storm force winds extend 175 miles from the center, and hurricane force winds now extend 70 miles from the center. The forecasts have trended just a bit slower, with Florence making landfall late Thursday or Friday in coastal North Carolina, though tropical storm force winds will overspread this area well ahead of this during the day on Thursday. Now, Florence may stall after it makes landfall and then move very slowly south down the coast. This could mean that parts of North and South Carolina near the coast will experience hurricane force winds and hurricane conditions for 24 hours or more.
We should get more insights into the president's trade plans later today. Several key officials are set to testify about current negotiations and the tariff aid plan for farmers during a Senate Ag Committee hearing. Chief U.S. Ag Trade Negotiator Greg Dowd, Undersecretary Ted McKinney, and USDA Chief Economist Rob Johansson are expected to answer questions about the progress of trade talks and the numbers behind the recently announced tariff aid package. The hearing is scheduled to begin at 10 a.m. Eastern. Cindy Clausen joining us this morning. She has a look at crop comments from the Bluegrass State. Cindy.
Good morning, Clinton. We're starting off in Sturgis, Kentucky. Jordan Dossett says yields are pretty good. Not setting records, but good considering the lack of moisture the area received in July and August. USDA says 77% of the state's corn crop is rated good to excellent. And James Boyd over in Ogdenville, Kentucky is drying grain this week. He says the moisture content is averaging 19.5%. Now, James says he started to harvest before rain arrived on Saturday. The ground finally dried out enough to harvest again yesterday. Let's take a look at some of the wind speeds we're expecting across the country over the next 24 to 36 hours, and it's going to be more so in the upper Midwest and the plains early today. We start to see those winds picking up in the southwest today, and then of course Hurricane Florence is going to be bringing some strong tropical storm and even hurricane force winds, especially as we get into late Thursday and into Friday. So that's something we'll certainly be keeping our eyes on. Of a lot more in your forecast coming up in just a few minutes, but for now, here are some hometown temps.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
When we come back, we'll check markets and look at recent moves in wheat. And later, a massive study in the health of dairy products might surprise you. We'll have details on In the Country.
Advice, information, ideas, and more. If it's ag tech, it's in the Tech Tool Shed, your unbiased one-stop source for everything ag tech.
I served 12 years as an Indiana State Trooper before transitioning to a full-time farming operation. Today we farm about 5,000 acres and raise primarily corn and soybeans. I'm supportive of the Trump administration, but I have a lot of concerns about the current actions that have been taken on trade and tariffs. The fact that China is our #1 soybean customer makes us very vulnerable. our farm and many others like ours will be one of the first casualties of a trade war. President Trump, support free trade and keep the ag economy strong.
One thing I value more on my farm than high yields is consistently high yields. That's why I plant Asgrow.
Stay out in front with the consistent performance of Asgrow, the highest yielding soybean seed in the U.S., offering 100% exclusive genetics for superior yields that help maximize profit potential acre to acre, year to year, generation to generation. Ask your dealer how much further you can grow when Asgrow leads the way.
The agribusiness market's reacting to USDA's reports and weather. Let's see where things closed from the floor of the CB in Chicago.
But today was kind of a shocker. So corn ended up finishing down about 14 cents in the day, which is a decent move lower, especially as we've gone lower, right? The propensity to go lower or have short, sharp moves lower is less the lower you go. So I would say today was an exaggerated day to the downside, considering where the corn price is trading already. Now that was the biggest intraday decline since June, and I think that with corn ending stocks moving to 1.77 from a 1.63 average, that's another real big shocker. So across the board, we had big shocks and big bearish shocks in corn, and finally an all-time high yield of 181 from an expectation of 177.8, and that's yield or bushel per acre. Again, all three of the big ones we look at in corn all came in significantly more or significantly bearish. So we have more corn on our hands. It's already going to be a big crop. So I'm Scott Shellady here on the CME Group floors in Chicago. I'll see you again next week.
USDA also releasing its wheat forecast on Wednesday, keeping expectations for global supplies unchanged. Analysts increasing Russian crops by 3 million tons on new harvest results. However, those gains were offset by smaller wheat crops in Australia and Canada. USDA putting global ending stocks 5% below last year's record. Angie Setzer with Citizen Grain, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. Angie, happy to have you back.
Thanks.
Welcome back. All right, let's talk about this wheat market. It's something you trade quite a bit, and boy, has it been dynamic the last month or so.
Dynamic's a good word.
It is a good word. I try to use good words.
That's my word of the day. It's definitely been something that you would call exceptionally volatile, is what I've been looking at. And, you know, the reality is we went into this last marketing year with this mindset that we had for the last 5 or 6 that we just are awash in wheat. That's been my favorite
Everyone says
phrase.
We've got more wheat than you.
Wheat. Well, all of a sudden it was suddenly like folks realized, wait a minute, China's sitting on half of that. And if you have production issues in other areas, US, Canada, Russia, Australia, you know, et cetera, suddenly supplies are a little bit tighter than anticipated and things get interesting and exciting. So that's definitely what we've been seeing. It seems like Russia has been the dominating headline as of late, the idea of will they or won't they when it comes to limiting exports. And so a lot of folks this past week have said, well, obviously they won't because it's been, you know, record export pace. Well, if you talk to anyone who actually trades cash wheat in Russia, you know, they've been down this road before. So what are they going to do? They're definitely going to make sure they get their piece of the pie, i.e. shipping out supplies
as much as they can, right?
Before a reduction takes place and they suddenly are unable to hit supplies. So
the question is, do we have enough wheat or are we short this year?
We have plenty of wheat based on spreads right now. I mean, we're obviously going to be able to cover our needs and things of that nature. The concern at this point in time is what happens in the global market structure.
Right.
You know, and obviously it seems like anytime we get close enough to where the U.S. wheat can be priced into the global market, we see this significant rally. Like wheat's just afraid to be exported, so it'd prefer to sit in the bin, which honestly, we have created this false dynamic in the market structure through VSR to keep that wheat in the bin. So we have in a lot of ways, you know, falsified or changed up how the market structure actually acts as well. So you have to factor in the fact that basis is 40 over, you know, and futures are high and stuff of that nature. So there's a lot of stories left to see in wheat. We'll definitely have a fun ride here as we work our way through the winter. We got to see what happens with Australia, see what really happens in Russia versus what they talk about. So buckle up and put your helmets on.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks, Angie. We'll be back with more Agday in just a minute.
For help solving your cash grain problems, call Angie Setzer with Citizens LLC at 800-858-3738. Join Andrew McRae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
No two seasons are the same. Each brings its own set of challenges, and you've seen a few. So many threats, and not one single thing can be taken for granted. In the fight against the unpredictable, the Acceleron portfolio provides coverage on 4 fronts: fungicides, insecticides, nematicides, and bioenhancers. Rise stronger with one simple decision.
Hey guys, today we're here to talk about trucks.
I love trucks.
What the heck is that? Whoa. What truck brand comes from the family of the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road?
I think it's the Chevy.
Ford.
Is it Ford? Nope, it's not Ford.
I think it's Ram.
Is it Ram? Not Ram.
That's
It's Chevy.
That's right. From the family of the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Gorgeous. Chevy hit it out of the ballpark with these.
Welcome back to Agday. Well, all eyes are going to be in the southeastern parts of the United States as we're watching Hurricane Florence, but we will have some other parts of the country that see some rain and some wet weather as well. That's going to be also in especially along the western parts of the Gulf. Obviously, Florence is going to be making a lot of rain for the Carolinas. A couple of fronts that are going to be affecting parts of the upper Midwest and into the Northwest. Not a ton of rain with those, but there will be some, especially across the northern tier of states. Florence continues to very, very slowly move inland, and we're looking at torrential rainfall because the storm is expected to slow down. So not only does the slow movement prolong the pounding of strong winds, but it's going to prolong the rainfall, and that means some devastating amounts of rain. We're probably going to be seeing and hearing many, many stories of flooding in the southeast. As we head through the day on Friday, we don't see a lot happening in the nation's midsection. We do see some scattered showers starting to get back into parts of the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, and of course the Gulf Coast states. And as far as precipitation is concerned, this is the past 24 hours, but you're really going to be able to start picking up what's going on with Florence as we really start to see that rain moving through. And of course, it's off the chart. Our chart only goes up to 3 inches, but this would be 11, 12 inches, and that's just through 7 o'clock Friday. So we're going to be seeing extreme amounts of rainfall. Obviously, southeastern Texas will be seeing some pretty good rains over the next 24 hours as well. Temperature-wise, we're going to see a lot of 80s, some pretty warm temperatures in much of the eastern part of the country. Still some triple digits out in Arizona, cooler temperatures in the Pacific Northwest, and that's going to continue as we get through tonight and into tomorrow as well. Getting down into the 50s, even some 40s in the Northwest, but milder 60s and 70s in the eastern part of the country. Let's take a look at that jet stream, and you can blame the ridge if you don't like the heat, because we're going to be seeing that ridge sticking around. We don't see a lot of movement in the upper air pattern. We're going to see that trough in the west, and that keeps those fronts really not moving a lot, but we keep the warmer temperatures through the weekend for much of the eastern part of the country until we start breaking down that ridge a little bit as we get into next week. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check out the weather where you live. Wickenburg, Arizona, sunny and hot for you today with a high of 101 degrees. Edna, Texas, showers and thunderstorms with a high of 84. And Waverly, Virginia, showers and thunderstorms on the increase, high of 84.
Up next, our Drovers TV report, including price and production estimates from USDA for U.S. beef. And later, researchers look into the health impacts of dairy and come away with some surprising results. We'll have details on In the Country.
One thing I value more on my farm than high yields is consistently high yields. That's why I plant Asgrow.
Stay out in front with the consistent performance of Astro, the highest yielding soybean seed in the U.S., offering 100% exclusive genetics for superior yields that help maximize profit potential acre to acre, year to year, generation to generation. Ask your dealer how much further you can grow when Asgrow leads the way.
No two fields are the same. Each acre has its own pulse. And if we could hear it, that would change everything. We'll help you listen. With simple data collection, storage, easy-to-use digital tools, and science-driven insights, Climate Field View is your data partner to support the decisions you make every day. Feel the pulse of the land in the palm of your hand.
On Drovers TV, USDA's latest supply-demand report reducing its forecast for total meat production. The drop related to lower pork and turkey production. On the beef side, however, forecasts are unchanged even as slaughter numbers rise. They were offset by lighter carcass weights. USDA also raising its fed steer target prices for Q3 to between $115 and $117 per hundredweight. Also from the team at Drovers, animal rights activists expanding protests, including vigils at meat processing plants. The SAVE movement is a network of 100 organizations who want to, quote, bear witness to animals going to slaughter. They hold vigils in an effort to stop trucks from entering slaughter facilities. Drovers editor Greg Henderson says some protesters are even trying to pet the animals and give them food and water.
Group leaders have said their goal is to have a vigil at every slaughterhouse across America. The Animal Ag Alliance has been working to notify meat companies about this latest protest trend and encourage them to take steps to protect their businesses and drivers and the protesters too.
A cell phone video was released last month showing a truck making contact with one of these protesters. Henderson saying the protester appears not to be injured in the video. When we come back, a look at new dairy research.
Out here, great yield starts with great weed control. That's why I choose the Roundup Ready Extend crop system, the system that makes the difference. Because only I know what it takes out here. Yield's what it's all for. But keeping my fields clean all season, that's what it's all about. This is my field.
Farmers across the country have put their confidence in the Roundup Ready Extend crop system. These are their experiences.
My satisfaction with XtendiMax on controlling weeds this is second to none.
We had fine results on the weed side, and we had excellent results on the yield side.
It's taking down the weeds, cleaning the fields up.
Our confidence is high.
There's no reason not to have XtendiMax on your fields. Put it on challenging acres, and they're clean.
In the Country, sponsored by the all-new Kubota Sidekick, a utility vehicle that lets you climb more, cover more, tow more, and enjoy more. Visit KubotaUSA.com.
New research is coming out all the time, and it's important we continue to learn about our health and wellness. Well, a new study on dairy products may change the way that people look at its impact on health. Researchers in Canada following 130,000 people in 21 countries for 9 years. The people in the study were put into 4 categories: those who ate no dairy, people who had less than 1 serving each day, people who had 1 to 2 servings per day, and those who ate more than 2 servings per day. Well, one of the main comparisons made was between those who ate no dairy and those that consume the highest amounts, more than 3 servings a day. The team from McMaster University concluding the high intake group had lower rates of cardiovascular disease and stroke. They also had a lower mortality rate.
Dairy is a rich source of energy as well. For example, cheese is a high source of energy, and we do not encourage people to consume many servings of cheese per day. As you mentioned, it's a high energy and high saturated fat. But at this level, we assume this is a safe amount of dairy to consume. And the main message of our study is for people who do not consume. We're saying that we need to encourage, not discourage people who do not consume dairy to increase their dairy consumption. We do not encourage people who have very high dairy consumption to increase their consumption.
Overall, McMaster University research team found roughly a 34% lower risk for stroke for those consuming more servings of dairy. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at Agday, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in Farm Country.